Hey there, everyone. This is Samuel Johnson, and welcome back to the Lyoko Retrospectives. And today we're going to be looking at episode 33 of Code Lyoko Final Mix. In the end of this episode, the school is having a dance. It's going to be just pretty much like a techno disco dance in the gym, and so pretty much just everyone's getting prepared for it. However, while carrying stuff. While getting everything set up, William ends up dropping the mixing board, and Odd says that he can get Jeremy to fix it, but Jeremy isn't interested in that sort of thing, as he's more concerned with trying to find a way to try and find an antivirus for Aelita. But Aelita says that she'll give it a shot because at this point she's really not doing anything and she's just watching Jeremy work. So she goes to fix the mixing board, which she's successful at. Because she's still learning about Earth, she asks what the mixing board is. So William explains it to her and lets her try it out. And they find that she's actually a bit talented with it. So William suggests that maybe she be the DJ for the dance, which she's perfectly okay with. Well, however, unfortunately, Jeremy is not. He thinks it's a waste of time, that they can do something else, and it just kind of leads to them having another couple's argument, which results in Aelita just storming out while Jeremy just says whatever. On top of that, there's also an exam that's going. They're also doing an exam, so they have to be weary of that. Ulrich had to study, and Odd says it's in that he's got something in the bag. He doesn't, but he likes to think he does. But once the exam is over, pretty much just that's when the Xana thing comes into play. As Jim, the person, not the place, wound up getting everyone's exams, and kind of what I find amusing is that Odd likes to fold his exams into little paper cranes, and so when Jim picked it up, he actually said, "Nice work there, Odd. The best one you've got so far," which I think is kind of funny. Like, apparently this is just a thing that Odd does, so that's funny. But as he's putting the tests away, Xana makes his move and possesses Jim. As such, that night, this party goes on. Aelita's DJing, but Jeremy, when he goes to work, ends up detecting that a tower's been activated. But before he can do anything, Xana attacks and pretty much just ties Jeremy to his chair and gags him so he can't warn anyone. As such, he then goes to the gym. And sorry, my dog's is just running around and sniffing things, so the camera's gonna be shaking. As such, he goes to the as the party's going on, Xana Jim ends up using his powers to zap an electrical box, send the electricity right back to the mixing board, and then just zap Aelita so hard that she's knocked out. And since Xana's possessing Jim, he takes her under the pretense that he's going to bring her to the nurse's office, when in reality he's bringing her straight to the supercomputer. Thankfully, Jeremy managed to get his gag off by not because he was tied to his chair. Because, like I said, he was tied to his chair, by falling over and getting it stuck and attaching it to the bottom of his computer stand. And thus he calls Kiwi to go and get Odd and company. As such, which Kiwi thankfully does. So they go there, and he explains that Xana's possessed Jim. And when when they actually go to the party and realize that Aelita's gone, they realize that Xana's made his move and taken her to the factory. As such, they go to head him off, and from there, once more becomes just standard Lyoko fare. As Jeremy and Yumi go down to the supercomputer to get her into trying to virtualize her, while Ulrich and Odd stay behind to deal with Xana Jim, and it takes a little bit of effort, but they manage to knock him out before they go to the supercomputer and virtualize themselves, which I think is a dumb move, considering that Jeremy himself is not very physically adept. So I think it actually would make sense for at least one of them to stay behind, since he's in the factories, and that's kind of a very big thing. But yeah, they pretty much virtualize into Lyoko, and Xana actually had the forethought to pretty much set a trap for that. Pretty much set a place where that he can send Aelita immediately, as they're inside a rut in the desert sector she's in a rut with the desert sector with a mega tank, and while there's a ramp that can lead out of it, if she tries making a run for it, the mega tank will just shoot whatever platform she's on, and she'll fall back down, pretty much just keeping her cornered, which again is smart thinking. But of course, when the kids arrive, it turns out that Xana also got some hornets in tow. So yeah, like I said, from there it's just kind of standard fare. Jim gets back up, goes to the computer. They do some fighting. He manages to Yumi and Orca devirtualize, but eventually they do. Jeremy gets temporarily knocked away from the computer before only to get back up. But they eventually, but bottom line, things just kind of go the way you'd expect them to. The Schizozoa shows up. They manage to free Aelita just in time. They go to deactivate the tower just as Jim is about to attack Jeremy. And since they deactivate it while Jeremy is in the lab, they have to do the return to the. They end up having to use the return to the past function. So yeah. As such, the episode ends with them back at the beginning of the day. Back at the beginning of the day, Odd now has the chance to study up for the exam with the help of Jeremy and Aelita. And Aelita still has every intent on being the DJ for the dance, which this time Jeremy's willing to be with her, most likely at least just to keep her safe. So, yeah, overall the episode's all right. It's once more going back to the regular filler stuff that we come to expect from Code Lyoko, because at this point it feels like they are getting more. At this point, it does feel like they're getting more comfortable in their new status quo, because at this point you can kind of tell how things are going to go, or how things are typically going to go from here. But in this case, it's just every episode, because every episode, Xana's intent is just to get Aelita and Lyoko, make sure she's alone, and then sick the Schizozoa on her. And since we see that Aelita and that Xana can possess human beings, all he has to do is just possess a human being and pretty much just get the circumstances right, that make the circumstances correct to get Aelita into Lyoko, which is different one each time. Which I admit is a little, I want to say a little bit formulaic. On the one hand, I do like seeing the possessed humans, as they are super creepy every time Xana possesses them, they just kind of glitch out of reality a bit, like they're static or something before their pupils turn to the Xana insignia and before their voice starts changing. I like that. I like that. And on top of that, it's cool seeing new powers they have. And this episode once more showcases more of that. We see the standard electricity stuff that Jim does, which we saw with when Xana possessed Jeremy. But in this case, we see him having levitation powers, and what's even better, he duplicates himself. It's actually kind of creepy and yet awesome at the same time. I love it. But again, I can't want to take a... Which, again, that's cool, but admittedly, this also kind of leads to a flaw. Like, while Season 1 was a lot more formulaic than Season 2 was so far, at the very least, it was sort of interesting to see what Xana's new plan for each week was. Here, it's usually just kind of more of the same. It's different circumstances for each one, but ultimately the plan is the same. Get Aelita to Lyoko. Which, again, yeah. Again, I'm not going to hate it, because, again, it is cool seeing what happens to it. It's just, I'm saying it's, yeah, a lot more formulaic. But with that being... And unfortunately, unfortunately, the episode also kind of carries with it the standard filler stuff that episodes like this have. In this case, we got our B plot in the real world, where that ultimately we have our B plot in the real world, which in this case is the dance with Aelita being the mixer, and just like in Season 1, ultimately the conflict doesn't really have much resolution as we see, like, the closer we get to a conflict with this is with Jeremy and Aelita having a kind of sort of argument. But unlike the last time they had an argument, which ultimately fed into the plot in the episode, and ultimately helped establish their relationship more, here it's just, I'm doing it, I think it's stupid, I'm doing it anyway, whatever, and then Xana attacks. Once everything's over, Jeremy does decide to go to the dance where Aelita's going to be DJing, but he mostly feels like he's doing it in the sense to make sure she's safe, because he doesn't really take back what he says either. So yeah, that's just kind of more lack of resolution that they kind of do. It especially helps that because they deactivated the tower while Jim was in the factory, they had to use the return to the past function. So yeah, that's kind of a big thing. So yeah, that's kind of another big thing. Otherwise, though, the episode is still alright. While it is formulaic, it's not bad. It is kind of nice. It's still nice seeing Aelita adapt more to Earth and getting used to how things work. I like that she actually finds a talent that she finds a hobby that she enjoys that doesn't involve doing mathematics and scientific work with Jeremy. because I like that. That helps show that she's forming more of her own identity, which is really nice. I also and of course, I already mentioned the stuff with Odd and the paper crane. That's a small thing, but I kind of like that. Kind of like that the way because the way Jim talks about it just shows that it's a common thing. And again, we do see some nice stuff with Jeremy, and we once more with Jim being possessed by Alita or by Xana. I'm getting names mixed up. Sorry. And of course shows the side of Xana, and again I think that's another reason why I'm not as angry at the possession thing as with other things, because it's actually showcasing the side of Xana that I like, not the one that's laughing maniacally and twiddling his fingers. No, it's cold and methodical. The closest we get to emotion is when he's being angry or cruel, like in this episode when Xana Jim managed to get into the supercomputer lab when Jeremy is there. He says, "Sorry, but I'm taking over," with just a grin as he pushes Jeremy away and goes to work, ready to devirtualize Odd and Ulrich. I like stuff. That's the side of Xana I like, and when Xana Jim has to pretend to be not possessed, of course he doesn't have Jim's inflections. He has the voice, but it's still angrier and dark. Like, "It looks like she's knocked out. I'll bring her to the infirmary." It still sounds like a robot trying to imitate human speech. I like that sort of thing. And again, it is kind of nice seeing Xana show some forethought by immediately gagging Jeremy, since he's the only one of their group who can actually virtualize anyone. So I like that. But otherwise, though, yeah, it's just standard filler Lyoko. Not bad, still alright. Has a lot of stuff that I like. Still some nice humor. I like seeing Alita forming her own identity beyond just the scientific stuff that she and Jeremy have in common. And while there's the plot's not really, it's not built, while the overarching plot isn't built on it anyway in this episode, still alright. Not great, but alright, still entertaining, so yeah. That's pretty much all I have to say. So, yeah. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and I'll see you next week. Take care.